Anybody in there? I want to make it clear that I'm a rhymer. I ain't a rapper. I ain't got nothing to do with candy bars. You know what I'm talking about, or do you? Howdy, this is the old TR. Well, I was going to kind of do a tribute. This is, we recently had Father's Day. I was going to kind of pay a tribute to my father and just kind of throw one by you. It's just an old Okie, born in June and May. He was born June 14th in May, Oklahoma. Raised on a small red dirt farm. Enjoyed hearing what old timers had to say. He was fascinated by their wit and charm. Made it to the 8th grade in the McGuffey Reader. Would rather ride horses than go to school. Honest as the day is long, never a cheater. Was a practitioner of the golden rule. Admired his parents who taught him compassion. Started his days at the crack of dawn. He loved that old farm with a passion. Was lost, losing his dad before he turned 21. His blood type was rare, AB positive. Gave a transfusion that saved a young man. The mother offered to pay. Any amount was suggested. He refused, saying happy to just be part of a plan. It was his first transfusion. He gave many more. Any way he could help out, count him in. He enriched many lives, even though he was poor. Over the years, he gave 5 gallons and got a gold pin. Wandered for a while in the Great Depression. Became a welterweight boxer while blazing trail. Fought with determination, made an impression on his opponent, who said he was as tough as nails. He went to Kansas and met a small town girl. Her mother nor her liked him at first. Later she decided to give him a whirl. He wasn't a catch, but she could have done worse. They went in a courthouse on a cold January night, in spite of their mother's fears. The best man announced to the judge $5 wasn't the right fee to charge. That $3 marriage lasted 59 and a half years. They raised 3 boys and a daughter, endured tough and grueling times. He figured it was worth all the bother. Got by pinching pennies, nickels, and dimes. He had a bad back, kept him out of World War II. Wanted to do what he could to help in the fight. Volunteered to be on a crash crew. When a B-17 crashed, people ran for cover. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and ran towards the crash site. Got a job in a steel plant. It was hard work. Toiled every day, but he kept his family fed. Had to put up with a boss who was a jerk. Never missed a day until he got bit by a brown recluse spider and spent 2 days in bed. His oldest son at 5 or 6 suffered trauma. When he heard his wife scream frantically, he backed over him riding his tricycle, a real-life drama. With pure adrenaline, he picked up the rear end of his 34 Ford. His wife pulled his son to safety. He struggled for many years, did without, never went out for dinner or a social event. Sometimes, like gypsies, we were moving about from one house to another if the rent was $5 cheaper. One day, fate stepped in and dealt a blow. A tornado blew away where he was employed. Wasn't sure what to do or where to go. He was offered a job and was overjoyed. 6 weeks later, and at an unexpected turn, the new workplace burned down. How he would get by was of great concern. Offered a job in a different state and town. A friend was a foreman up in Nebraska. It was apparent it was an opportunity he had to take. It was up north, sometimes as cold as Alaska. He prayed it was the right move to make. It didn't pay much money, but it was stable. He got along with everybody. He was real easy going. With open hands, he hoped he was able. If things worked out, no way of knowing. A few years passed, and then it got better. A wealthy half-sister died without a will. Her relatives were found because of a letter he'd written to her before she became ill. The letter resulted in an inheritance, quite a bit for someone as poor as a church mouse. It wasn't really a large amount of assistance, but it allowed him to put a down payment on a house. Time passed and he reached retirement age, but he didn't want to retire. They'd let him do clean up and he turned the page. He kept busy and out of the idleness mire. He was an undereducated philosopher of sorts, evident once when he overheard a conversation. The big boys were discussing Concorde jet reports. The speed it traveled was a fascination. When asked what he thought of the feat, he came up with one of his zingers. They were in for a real treat. What the fastest thing on earth, he said, is a human mind. I can go back 50 years just like that. Finally forced into retirement for sure. His working days were over. He'd paid his dues. He was shocked everything was a blur. Hung up the hard hat and steel-toed shoes. He'd worked hard his whole life long. The future was filled with doubt and fear. He felt like not working was wrong. Reluctantly, he was retired in almost 20 years. He stood 5'5.5", was a giant of a man, always quick to make someone laugh, had the heart of a lion and gentle as a lamb. He always said, "I never gave you kids nothing." He taught us common sense and how to survive strife. What he did give us was truly something. It was priceless. What he gave us was his life. You can't put a price on that one.